The pandemic is the greatest tumamina moment for our country. This epidemic will pass. It is up to us to determine how long it will last and how damaging it will be, and how long it will take our economy and country to recover. If we act now and decisively, I am sure we can overcome it. We have never been defeated when we act in a united way. These are the words President Cyril Ramaphosa said as he addressed the nation on Sunday night. Our deputy editor, Steph Saville, speaks to Melanie Veness, the CEO of Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chamber of Business.
Okay, Mel, Veness, thank you so much for joining us today. We chatting to the CEO of the Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chamber, and we just know that with the announcements last night by the President, we're all feeling a bit shell-shocked, and we're sure that business is concerned as well at this point. So Mel, tell us what you thought of last night's address by the President and what your most important concerns are right now.
Yes, Steph, I think it's going to hurt our economy. In fact, it already is, but it's going to hurt our economy a lot more at a time when we really can't afford this extra blow in a recession. And adding this to that those recessionary conditions is really creating an untenable situation for business to operate in. Having said that, I don't think the President had an alternative. You know, if you just look at the rate of spread of this disease elsewhere, of the virus elsewhere, it can potentially be catastrophic for particularly this area. You know, we have the highest HIV infection rate in the world. And so we have a large number of our population that have compromised immune systems, whether it's from being HIV positive or from having TB or from associated illnesses. We're in trouble. Even if we have a percentage, I was listening to some stats the other day saying that if this crisis got underway, we would need 21,000 respirators in KZN. There's absolutely no way that we have anywhere near those numbers. I just don't think our healthcare sector would cope. So, and the effect on business in that case, it's kind of Hobson's choice, isn't it? I mean, if your workforce is taken out, then how do you operate at all? Mm. So at the moment, there are mostly people in the tourism industry being hit really, really hard, travel agencies and airlines and tour operators, accommodation establishments. We just had a big blow with the cancellation of the Royal Show. That's a massive knock to our economy in the next couple of months. So yes, it's painful, it hurts, and our biggest fear, I guess, is having to shut down all economic activity like they've done elsewhere in Europe. You know, our factories a lot of them are teetering. We've got problems now with exports. How do we get our product into other countries? And if we are not able to operate at all, then I'm afraid we're going to lose quite a number of those, both small and large businesses.
It's interesting, just picking up on what you were saying about respirators. That's exactly what I asked William Keys in my column in the Weekend Witness, is tell us how many respirators or ventilators we have in KZN. But as you say, it's nowhere near enough. Going back to the Royal Show, that's such an iconic event for Maritzburg people. So I think this is, besides the President's announcements last night, this is what made us all feel that this is getting very real and very close to home when Terry Strachan announced this morning that the Royal Show is cancelled for now, perhaps postponed, but we'll know more about that later. But he bandied a figure of about 250 million rand. What does that mean for the economy of our city, and what's the breakdown there? Who all is going to be losing out?
Well, I think that what one's got to do is get it in context. From a tourism perspective, Pietermaritzburg is an eventing city. That's what we do. That's how we draw large numbers of people to the city. That's how we feed the accommodation establishments and our restaurants. And I mean, the knock-on effect from tourism is huge. So apart from the exhibitors that have to be here for a period of 10 days and prior to that to set up and after that to close down, I mean, that's a lot of accommodation for out-of-town exhibitors. There's a lot of local people that rely on the Royal Show to get access to market. They make good sales during that period of time. There's also the petrol stations, the restaurants, the hired vehicles, all the add-ons that go along with that, as well as the people that come to town for the day that actually spend their money in this economy buying stuff at the Royal Show, supporting food vendors. There are people that just operate from show to show. So, I mean, you're cutting off the livelihood of people like that. The Royal Show, in the context of the show circuit, is a big show that takes place over a long period of time. So there's massive input. It's also all the people that are vendors to the show themselves, the speed fencing people, the signage people, all the things that go along with an exhibition.
Yeah, the support services.
All the support services. So, and they really are relying on events. And if every event that's got more than 100 people is being stopped, then literally cutting off the income to that whole support sector.
And we hear that Decorex Durban is also cancelled, and I'm sure that there are local people who go down to exhibit there. So, yeah, the legs of these events it's actually growing, the amount of events that have been cancelled. Mel, what does business need government to be doing right now? And do you think they will do enough? What do they need to be doing immediately?
Well, if you look at other countries, I mean, there's amounts of sort of 7 billion euros being set aside to help small business and large businesses through this period. We just don't have that kind of money in our fiscus to be able to lend the kind of support that business is going to be needing to have over the next few months. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of the NEDLAC negotiations, what is actually put on the table, but it's really worrying if this is going to happen over a sustained period and there is no support. I've had people phoning me in a panic today. They've had orders from other countries. They've expended a huge amount of money sourcing materials and manufacturing. Now they can't deliver them because there's restrictions at the ports and elsewhere. And now who's going to carry the costs of that while it sits around for 3-4 months before it can actually be sent? So, and those small businesses, they literally can't carry that. And the knock-on effect is that their suppliers might be big industry, who also can't carry it for everybody in those circumstances. So, there's huge ramifications all over the place. Also with labour forces, what do you do if your labour force is quarantined?
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question, because business and industry have a duty of care towards their workers. So they've got to try and make sure that they're safe at work, but they also have to think about their workers getting to work and using public transport. And it just seems like a no-win situation, because public transport there's no way, of course, to do social distancing. And what feedback are you getting from local businesses in terms of this?
Yeah, look, I mean, local business is really concerned, and having spoken to people, they seem to be doing the best that they possibly can. I know there's a lot of businesses that have provided individual little hand sanitizers to all their workers so that they can utilize that in public transport and at home, in their own homes. They've provided it for use at work. They're providing, some are providing immune booster vitamin C's to their staff during the day. There's temperatures being taken at doors, etc. So I think people are doing what they possibly can to try to protect their staff and to make things as safe as they possibly can. It's not possible to transport large numbers of workers from different places to work and back every day. And in any case, if you were doing that, you'd be putting them in a bus situation anyway. So, I mean, how do you solve that?
But it's really heartening to hear that people are taking initiative and doing those measures. I think that's really awesome.
No, we have a very, very caring business community, I have to say. During times when there were water shortages, I know that there were places that bought Jojo tanks for their workers. I mean, we have a really caring business community, and I think they're stepping up to the plate as far as this is concerned as best they can.
Is there anything that you think local government needs to be doing?
I think I was really quite pleased with the leadership shown by President. I think that we have handled this crisis as best as we possibly can. In fact, I think better than a lot of developed countries so far.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to see that they have actually backdated the date to the 15th of February to get people tested, because I know there are people that have arrived in South Africa from places like Italy that have arrived and they haven't been well and they haven't been tested. And, they're being irresponsible and going around and seeing people and carrying on as normal. The medical aids have made it very difficult for people to get tested. It's expensive, and if you aren't showing signs at the time, now it's too late for those people to go in, but now they've backdated it. So I think making the test more readily available at a more reasonable price will go a long way to ensuring that people get tested. So I think that's one space government must play a role, is in the testing place. Yeah.
And do you think there are any opportunities for local business? I mean, are there any people who are doing bulk hand sanitizer or trying to work out a way to make masks?
Yes, look, I think that whenever there's something like this, then there's an opportunity, and hand sanitizer is definitely one of those places. And if you can be innovative around what business could use to ensure the safety of their workers, then absolutely. Yeah. It's sold out just about everywhere, the sanitizer. And I think that you'll be hard-pressed to find one of those remote temperature mechanisms that take temperatures now, because I think most people are sold out. So definitely, whenever there's a crisis, there's an opportunity for business to do business, and I hope that people do take up the opportunity, because we're suffering in other areas. So one's got to keep the economy going, and I really worry. I think more about these shows. The fact that shows like the Royal Show continue to be successful is because of our high unemployment rate. People are relying on being entrepreneurs from home as opposed to being employed, and so these are ways of access to markets. So how do you access markets if you can't go where people gather? So it's going to be a real hardship for a lot of families, and that's a huge concern. Social isolation is distancing is one thing. How do you trade? I mean, there's going to have to be some creative ways of engaging, and people are going to have to go back to the drawing board. We were planning a new event come June. We've had to rethink that. The direction that we're looking at going in now is an online auction, which allows people to still participate, and it's a little bit fun and different. So I think business is going to have to go as they do when the circumstances and environment changes, is to go back to the drawing board and learn how to navigate it.
And Mel, what about the malls in town? Have you heard any concerns from them in terms of visitors coming, and it's very, very hard to distance oneself socially in a queue at a supermarket?
It is difficult, and nobody's reported any great reduction in numbers, and maybe that's still to come.
Okay.
But we haven't seen panic buying here like we've seen elsewhere in the world. I still don't get the toilet paper thing, but it appears that seems to be something people feel like they should stockpile. I'm not entirely sure why.
I can tell you our producer, Neo, and myself have both stockpiled toilet paper. So
maybe you can tell us why.
It's just the one thing we'd rather not be without.
How would you like to live next door to a whole lot of people that don't have any?
Moving swiftly on. Mel, what about things like sick leave and working from home? Have you had calls from local businesses asking how they should deal with that kind of thing?
Absolutely, because it's a difficult thing. Even in our own office, there is opportunity for a number of employees to be able to work from home quite comfortably. But then you have a range of employees, and how do you apply that to some employees and not to others? I mean, we have staff that set up our function rooms, and they simply can't do that from home. So, you've got to be uniform in terms of your application of policy. There's no ways if we're going to endure long periods of quarantine. And think, for instance, if one of your workers, like the young girl that's been exposed, then 350 people have to go into isolation. So what happens if your whole workforce goes into isolation? First of all, you're not producing, so you're not making any money. How can you then compensate employees for sitting at home when a large portion of them are probably not sick, they're just in quarantine?
Indeed.
So that's a difficulty. Already asking business to make that officially sick leave is a tall order, because you get the 36 days in a 3-year period, but most people don't use anywhere near the 36 days. So, the provision for sick leave is still a pretty tall order. I'm not sure how business is going to cope with it. My sense that I've got from business is that most will allow the sick leave or annual leave until that's depleted. And at that point in time, I'm not sure what happens. I don't know whether you can claim UIF for that period, or whether that's going to step up, whether there's going to be a fund, whether the unions that are established to help workers in times when they can't work will step up. What happens, it's still to be seen.
Yeah, it's all uncharted territory, isn't it?
It is.
So we're going to learn as we go along, and just hope we all make the right decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that people want to be as reasonable and as considerate as they possibly can, but then there's practicalities of, if you land up being, whatever you do in the beginning is going to be precedent. So one's got to consider that the implications of it being a tall order in the future, and how would you cope? Would your business survive? And would that mean that everybody was then unemployed because you'd extended leave or paid sick leave that extends beyond the 36 days, or very difficult to make that call without really thinking about the implications long term.
Well, I guess we'll hear a lot from the unions as well, as they get to grips with what's happening, and I'm sure they'll let us know what they feel about things. Mel, is there anything else you want to say to your business community in Maritzburg?
I just want to say that we are there if they need the support, that we're only a phone call away, that we'll do our best to be as supportive as we can through this time. And if they have issues that they wish to raise with us, we will gladly take on whatever we can. It's going to be a pretty tough year, and it's important to us that at least we're aware of issues. There are some funds out there that have been put aside by the provincial government to help businesses that are in distress. And the last thing we want people to do is to feel distressed and not to voice it in time for somebody to be able to intervene. So I'd encourage businesses that do find themselves in trouble to pick up the phone and say, we're in trouble. And let's see if we can't do something to help. Other countries have done it. I know our provincial government have set aside a fund. So we are there to make that connection.
Okay, that's fantastic. We're lucky to have you. Thank you, Mel. Thanks so much for everything you do, and good luck for the weeks and months to come. We will keep you updated at The Witness and through our pages of anything that happens. And Mel, please contribute to that in any way you want to. And everybody out there, stay safe, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, and thank you for all you guys do. It's amazing how you keep us informed. We really appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank you so much. Thanks.